As the great independent director Mr. Werner Herzog once said, I despise formal restaurants. I find all of that formality to be very base and vile. I would much rather eat potato chips on the sidewalk.
Hello and welcome to Potato Chips on the Sidewalk. I'm Barbecue Benjamin after a lengthy hiatus. Joining me today is...
Healthy Jacob. My voice is back. Because last time it wasn't, my voice was all fucked.
It was so long ago I can't even remember.
Yeah. Anyway.
Today we're going to... Okay.
Yeah.
So your health is more important?
Yeah. No, well, I'm all better now, so not really.
Okay. Today we're going to be doing a special little feature here where we're going to be talking about two Australian films, one recently released, one about to be released. They are Talk to Me by the Philippou brothers and The New Boy, the new film by probably the most acclaimed Australian director working right now, Warwick Thornton. Anyway, we're going to be starting with Talk to Me. Jacob, you want to, give the rundown of the film before we start giving our thoughts on it?
All right, yeah. So this is made by Danny and Michael Philippou, who before this, and I guess still kind of now are, mostly well known for their work on Raka Raka, which was a famous YouTube channel in the early to mid 2010s. And yeah, they're making a film now, which is about Mia, who's played by Sophie Wilde, who is grieving the loss of her mum. I think it's the film kind of introduces her on the 3-year anniversary of her death. And she convinces her best friend and her best friend's younger brother to attend a party where some sort of mummified hand almost conjures up spirits at a party. And yeah, that's just the sort of setup of the film. And yeah, that's kind of the gist of it, and it all kind of falls. You sort of see the spiral of what happens after that, and what this sort of pursuit for this cheapish thrill has consequently.
Okay, Jacob,
that was a very convoluted way to say that.
What did you think of Talk to Me?
I was really impressed by it. I guess I'm I know it's not fair, but it's the whole YouTube filmmakers thing. There is a bit of okay about it, sometimes.
What do you mean, okay?
Is this actually a film that was made because these people are good filmmakers, or because their YouTube clout? And while I'm sure their YouTube clout helped them, this is a legit film.
Jacob, are you trying to talk shit about the Smosh movie?
Look, it's no Smosh movie. It's no Smosh the movie. Or it's not even I don't know, what was the one the Fine Bros did? Was it F the Prom?
Oh my god,
it's not I
didn't
F
even
the Prom.
think about that.
Nah, this is really good. There's the whole, because this got picked up by American distribution by A24. There has been a bit of expectations about that being sort of art housey, and this film isn't that like that. It's it's well made and it's really formally well done, but there's no air of pretentiousness of or trying to jump on the sort of A24 brand here. It's just a really well done, really for a first feature, really well balanced in terms of tone, characters, and I guess both balancing cruelty and also empathy. And those are kind of intertwined. Yeah, and I'm sure our Australian viewers know, a lot of the film and TV shows here written by, let's say, people who probably don't have the finger on the pulse of Australian teenagers. They really like to try. They really like to try, and
their kids are their window into that world. And
I think it's the niece who was on their phone one too many times for their liking at Christmas. Like, like you know what I mean? That's how detached it feels. But like, no, like Michael and Danny Philippou, they have the finger on the pulse. They understand. You know, I'm not sure this is like specifically Australian, but obviously teenage recklessness in Australia and that sort of pursuit for cheap thrills, which, you know, the film's not trying to hide. The whole Conjuring Spirits thing is like definitely has quite a fair few allusions to our drug use, but like it understands.
Well, very blatantly.
Yeah, very blatantly. It understands and doesn't overplay the decisions these characters make. Like, it understands, like, teenagers are just sort of almost very casually looking for a cheap thrill sometimes. Like, it doesn't actually take them too much to convince.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's an Australian thing, but as someone who's been seeing a lot of bad Australian teenagers being written on screen, I think this was really well done and well observed. Ben, what did you think of Talk to Me?
I really like this. I enjoyed Evil Dead Rise, but I think it pulled a few of its punches. The cruelty in this is, I don't want to use earned as a thing that is necessarily like is needed, but the cruelty doesn't. It leads places. I don't want to spoil anything because the film's not out for a couple of weeks publicly, but it's not like cruelty for the sake of cruelty. It's like it's really like putting these characters through an emotional journey that's not going to end with, you know, like, well, I get my chainsaw and I'm covered in blood and then I kill the demon. You know, like it's, so like there's no like escape from the thing that they let in, and it's horrifying. Like it's that I'm usually pretty okay with like seeing blood and gore on screen, but some of the sequences in this film are just like it had me like curling my toes, like my mouth is over my mouth, like a horrified like elderly woman like seeing like a, oh my god, like I was literally like doing that. Before I saw it, I didn't really know much about it. All I saw was the image of the cast hand on the table, and I knew it was a possession film, and my thoughts were, you know, like, oh, what can you do with a possession movie? You know, like it's 2023, like, you know, like we've seen different people get possessed in movies for forever. Like, you know, like what can you do with it in 2023? And to have it as like this angle where it's like it's almost like, you know, like the Grimace shake meme. Like, you know, everyone's filming this and putting it on their Instagram story or their TikTok, and they're like, oh, let's just go get possessed by these like dead spirits in purgatory and let's post it on Instagram. Like, everybody's constantly got their phones out filming what's happening. And like, you know, like that sounds like what we were talking about earlier with the, you know, like the older Australian writers who are trying to, you know, like figure out what teenagers are like. But this felt more real than how I'm making it out to be. Like, it's this is the new trend. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like
Yeah.
yeah, like it's not anything more than that. Like, it doesn't try to shove it down your throat. And I was pretty like astounded by it. Like, from beginning to end, I was like, okay, like, where are they going to go with this? Because as a concept of like these teenagers going to parties and drinking and getting possessed by demons, like, you could easily like fill out an entire 90-minute movie with them being in just like one party. You know what I mean? Like, they have like the opening stinger, which by the way is
Fucked.
like, yeah, like it's like it really like had me like, oh my god, okay, this is where it's gonna be for like the rest of the next like 90 minutes. So, like, this is how it's gonna be. Like, I'm in. And then you can have like, 20 minutes setting up the other characters, and then they go to the party, and then it's 70 minutes of that one party where they keep getting possessed and more people die. Like, that's what I assumed was going to happen when they went to the first party. But then, like, there's a few different instances of them using this, I don't know, idle hand thing in different scenarios that, like, they did a lot more with it than I thought they were going to.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was just so impressed throughout it. Like, again, like, I keep using the word cruelty, but like, there's no, at no point do I feel like anybody got off easy in this.
Well, no, it's like, well, two things I want to say.
Yeah.
On the phone thing, like, I think it avoids it because it doesn't actually sort of tut at phone usage.
No, it doesn't.
Just kind of like, it doesn't portray it as always healthy. Like, there's a part where like one of the possessions like reveals something like very compromisingly embarrassing for one of the characters, and like, people are just like, don't fucking upload that to Instagram, like, delete that, like, but it's like, it understands how it's abused, but it also understands that it observes and understands how it's embedded into social culture.
Yeah.
Like, very early in the film, like, Mia, she's kind of walking around, like, she's kind of, she's not like cartoonishly like losery or like isolated or like a loner, but like, she's like the weird eccentric girl who, like, oh yeah, I wouldn't invite her to a party, but like, we're not going to be like, nah,
Well, I mean, one character's like that.
Yeah, only one character's like that, and then that character just kind of doesn't seem to have an issue with having her around like after that, but like, but no, it's like she's walking around, like, there are the phone usage, and it understands that the phone usage is a part of teenage socializing, but it also understands the limits of it, but also doesn't like try and like tut about it. I don't know. It's really well balanced, and yeah, on the cruelty, it's like legitimately cruel. Like, like, the thing is, yeah, you don't feel like certain characters are being protected from plot armor, like, but
yeah,
it works so well because it's also genuinely empathetic and understanding of its characters. Like,
yeah,
like, the cruelty actually matters because these characters matter, like, as flawed as pretty much all of them are. Like, like, yeah, like, they're like so uniquely Australian in an Australian manner, like, mean and vicious to each other, but like, that's just the people. And yeah, I think it's like, I think the film isn't going to be given enough credit for just how well it balances things that typically aren't that well balanced, but yeah, it does a great job at that.
I don't know how much more I can really say about it without getting too deep into spoilers. Like, you know, like all around, you know, everybody in it is doing really well. Like, I enjoyed everybody in it. Of course, we have to shout out Miranda Otto for you know, being the Australian actor that's famous enough to get funding for the film.
Yeah.
But she was really great in it. But yeah, all around, like, and the effects that they have on like the eyes of the possessed people were like seamless enough where I was like, this, like, it looks great pretty consistently. And I also do want to shout out, I love it when dead bodies and like demons and, you know, like spirits are just gross, are just like disgusting. Yeah, like it's I love that shit.
No,
but
it's gnarly. I'm like you in that, like, I find myself for like a lot of horror films being quite like stoic or stone like, but like I was like, even in the first, like, the opening stinger here, I was like, oh!
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Like, it really like jolts you awake with like how just brutal and horrifying it is,
but also kind of like matter of fact. Like, yeah. No, it's really good. I think as you said, the performances are really good. I want to give a special shout out to both Sophie Wilde, who plays Mia. Like, I see no reason why she's not going to have a ton of roles after this. And Joe Bird, who plays the younger brother of Mia's best friend, who's just like, it's such a playing the sort of like younger weird sibling role. You know, it might not make too much of an impression, but it's such a hard thing to do effectively. Like, okay, here's like a sort of nerdy younger teenager who's like, his sister's embarrassed us around at the same parties as she is, but also like, you know, you believe he actually wants to take part in like the possession, and like, you know, the people aren't weirded around by being there. And I think Joe Bird's presence here is really interesting.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd really like to see him in more roles as well.
Yeah. Actually, I do have one last thing to say that I think I can say without spoiling too much is I love when characters in films, like high concept films like this, where they accept the situation as fact pretty much immediately. Yeah. You know, like, as soon as the first like sequence of possession takes place, everyone's just like, oh, okay, this is real. You know, like, nobody's like, well, at no point anyone is like, well, like, I think they do mention it when they're looking at like their phones and somebody's like posted it and they're like, whatever, it's fake. But as soon as like it happens before their eyes, they're just kind of like, oh no, this, okay, I guess this is like actually happening.
To be fair, that's not entirely right. The best friend is a bit more hesitant until the next time, until the second possession she sees, and then she's like, oh, okay.
No, I think she believes it's real.
Oh yeah, okay.
I think she's just kind of like, you know,
guys,
responsibly at least, like, yeah, I don't think we should be doing this. Yeah, like 100%. Yeah. Do you have anything to say before we move on?
No, great film. Yeah, I'm stoked for what they do next, and I hope that it's another film of this sort of size, and, you know, I want them to continue doing what they're doing.
You don't want them to do Street Fighter?
Yeah, I don't think they'll actually be bad for it, considering like they have that stunty sort of like genuine genre background. But I think what I'd be most excited for would be like a film that I could like recognizably be like, okay, yeah, this is the next film from the people who made this. Not to say like the same film, but
Yeah.
like, yeah, something recognizably Philippou, which whatever that would look like in the future.
Okay, so next we're going to be going into The New Boy by Warwick Thornton. Jacob, do you have your little intro?
Yep. Unlike the last sentence-long plot synopsis that I stretched out for like 2 minutes, I'll just say what I wrote down here. A 9-year-old Indigenous boy, played by Aswan Reed, who's gifted with like powers like connected to spirituality, is taken to a monastery run by a nun, played by Kate Blanchett, who sort of is taking charge of this monastery in the perceived absence due to sickness of the father of the priest of the monastery, who hasn't really been seen. And essentially we see this boy's attachment to his supernatural powers, and then that intertwining with this, Christian imagery and faithhood so much in his face. I think this is a fantastic film. I'm baffled. I'm simultaneously baffled, but also not too surprised by the response of this, where just going through like both like critics review and like user reviews and Letterboxd, it's like people seem to be two ways about it. Like either it's too in your face, or it's like, or they're also like, what is this film? But like, what's this about? And I don't think it's a subtle film, but I think that's the power of it as well. Like, also the people who say that it's like, well, we get the point of the film. Why do we have to spend 2 hours with it? And it's just like, because we're seeing this, we're experiencing this sort of clash of faith as well as these abilities he has. And and look, it's
I can't hear someone say, why do we have to spend 2 hours in this film, and just take any opinion like that seriously for anything. It's like saying, okay, I understand Robert De Niro robs banks. Why do I have to spend 2 hours and 45 minutes watching Heat?
Yeah, exactly.
What does that even mean? It doesn't mean anything.
Exactly. I think it's a sort of, it's a point that baffles me, but I'm also not surprised. But I think it's a wonderful film. It's devastating, also really funny. It's a really funny film.
Yeah.
And you can tell Warwick Thornton, who himself obviously an Indigenous Australian, who also was raised in a Christian boarding school. Yeah, this is a very potent and close to the heart film for him, and you can feel this sense of, engaging with legitimate faith, but also feeling betrayed. It's really palpable. Sorry, Ben, what did you think?
I really liked The New Boy. I didn't really know much about it before going into it. Like, I just knew it was going to be a stolen generation Aboriginal boy going to a monastery in the middle of pretty much nowhere with Kate Blanchett playing a nun. And I was quite taken aback in the first 20 minutes of the film, where I was like, okay, what's the hook here? And then when he starts manifesting his spiritual powers and seeing Kate Blanchett and her her rebel nature as much as you can be as a nun, being doing her own thing despite what the the rules were at the time. As it all started to like unfold, I think it builds on top of itself like really effectively. And by the time we reach the, like the climactic, again, I don't want to spoil anything, but like the climactic,
the culmination,
like of everything that it is happening. Like I've like you can't do it as effectively as this film does without everything that came before it, and that's why we need to spend 2 hours with it. But like again, like performances all around. Everyone's great in it. Kate Blanchett, Wayne Blair, Deborah Mailman. Like they're all just having. I don't want to say like they're all having a great time, but like
well, there are a lot of fun.
They're great
moments
to watch on the screen. Like as 3 Australian actors, like Kate Blanchett has like transcended Australian cinema and like is known all across the world, but Wayne Blair and Deborah Mailman, like they're I feel like most Australians would at least see them and be like,
they're household names. Like well, a lot of kids definitely grew up with Deborah Mailman on Play School, so like like I did. I think that's because that's the thing. I remember like when I saw Deborah Mailman like in more dramatic roles, I'm like, oh, from Play School. Like, I'm like, no, she's a very accomplished and very good actress. Like, Also, the cinematography here is so stunning. There are like, I think when he arrives to the orphanage, there's like a very like beautiful sort of like sunrise sort of thing that it almost looks like it's like from like a 1950s Technicolor epic in a way. Yeah,
the glow along the horizon is
and I think actually I don't know this for sure, but I presume like his previous
he did shoot it himself.
Thornton also shot it himself, so like he what can't you do, Warwick Thornton? Like it's a great film, and I again not surprised but still baffled by the response it's gotten.
Well, I think, like some of the response it's gotten, I think it is rooted in a little bit of bigotry and not wanting to understand the message. Like, because I think it's pretty blatant about what it's saying. Like, as, again, not a bad thing. Like, I think subtlety is overrated quite a lot. But do we want to bring up the Financial Times? Financial Review, I mean, sorry.
I completely forgot about that until you just mentioned it. Holy shit.
Financial Review, sorry.
Yeah, the AFR Financial Review. That's
I feel like if you know, but I think when we both finished this film, we were like, okay, like that was coming from a place of absolute just intolerance.
Essentially, for context, for the Financial Review, the film critic who reviewed this film made some pretty unpleasant comments about Warwick Thornton, the filmmaker's appearance, and it was really quite bad. And I think especially considering it's talking about the film The New Boy, which very much is about this like sort of erasure of a cultural identity and like you know what it means for like to make these kids in this orphanage be proper, like quote unquote proper,
like what assimilation like takes away from a person's identity.
yeah, like it was. I don't want to repeat what was said there, but yeah, it was pretty revolting, honestly.
Yeah. And that's what I mean, like, with the response to it is probably, I feel like if you can't see what this film is trying to tell you, you're not on board with what it's, like, I don't want to I'm stumbling over words because I don't want to accuse anyone of anything.
Yeah.
But, like, if you fail to take away the message of this, I don't think you're really in the same headspace, or again, I don't want to, like, judge people. There's a level of empathy that's required. Especially from non-Indigenous viewers to be able to connect with it. Sorry, I just got really
no, you're I think I
got a little bit preachy there. But, like, what I'm trying to say is, like, open your hearts and minds to what Warwick Thornton is trying to tell you here. And I think the message, even though it's thrown in your face, it's powerful, and I really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, and that's the thing. It's like we talk, like you said, subtleties overrated, and
yeah,
I think I'm coming to a point where, like, vagueness isn't a bad thing, but it's also like I you're good. Like, where I think it's become so overused as a very borderline surface level, like, aesthetic consideration, that I'm appreciating a more upfront delivery sometimes, and I think Warwick Thornton's really does that really beautifully. Yeah, and that's the thing, because it's like some of the negative reviews I've read are like, it goes on for too long, but the point is really blatant, and it's just like, yeah, well, but obviously it's not blatant enough if you're wondering what. Then again, maybe that's not just a film with this film, but maybe just films in general. Like, why are we spending time watching this character go through this thing? Like, it's to experience it. Like, yeah, and this does that really well and really heartbreakingly. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And we were talking a little bit about Talk to Me after we finished watching it. And you were talking about how you appreciated that it didn't go down. Like, when people think of an A24 horror movie, they're thinking of a Hereditary type thing.
Yeah.
And Talk to Me really, again, like, even though what it's trying to say is very blatant and upfront, it's saying it, and that's not, like, I don't know why we have to, like, dance around what the message of a film is for it to be good.
Yeah. No, of course.
Yeah. I don't want to.
I think it comes from a very. Sorry, you go on.
No, you go. You're all good.
I think it comes from, like, something that's quite prevalent in, like, specifically, like, American cinephiles, where they like to call directors they don't like frauds, or, there's almost like an air of, like, they don't. The worst thing that they can be is intellectually tricked into liking a film.
Yeah.
There's something about, like, being tricked by the art form, and that obviously seeps its way into a lot of other, like, how a lot of other cultures talk about films and film criticism, and it sucks. It sucks. Like,
yeah, like, sometimes, everybody talks about David Lynch as some, like, impenetrable, just vague, and, like, he's like the go-to that people talk about with that kind of like not understanding what they're doing. But then David Lynch himself in Twin Peaks: The Returns basically looks at the camera and says, "Lay the fuck off transgender people, you fucking bigots." Like, you know, like...
Yeah.
Again, subtlety is overrated because that's a great moment in a great show, and it's directly telling you what the message is to the camera.
Yeah.
You know, like...
Well, yeah, it's like to me, it's kind of like like if you're like, if The Wizard of Oz came out today, there's no place like home. People would be like, bit on the nose much. Like,
imagine them watching like Miracle on 34th Street and being like, okay, I got it. You know, like, I get it. Oh no, I think I'm talking about like It's a Wonderful Life. I think more is what I was trying to get there. But like, you know, like, okay, filmmaker, do you want to be more obvious about it? And it's like, well, that's the type of film it is. You know, like,
yeah, exactly.
It's
Bring
like
back sincerity.
watching Home Alone. What do you look after your kids? You fucking idiot. Like,
watching The Irishman. Maybe don't do crime. Yeah, we get it. Like,
again, same concept with The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Seeing Leos Carax as a net. Maybe don't exploit. Maybe don't murder your wife and view your baby as a puppet. Oh. Like, it's on the nose much. Yeah. Anyway.
Yep.
Talk to Me and The New Boy. Those are two very good films, and I'm glad that we have brought back the multi-film format for the first time in a couple of years to...
Oh, really?
highlight.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, time's gone really quickly. It's kind of fucked.
Oh my god. I can't believe we've been doing this for 3 years.
Don't say that.
Yeah, we have.
Ew.
Yeah. Alright. Anyway, I think that's done. Australian cinema can be great. Let's just stop making it about every time an Australian person gets murdered, let's make a movie about it.
Speaking of
films.
Next Australian film we're going to review is Force of Nature, The Dry 2.
Look, that's a fictional story.
Yeah, that's a fictional, but still, it's about... Yeah. We like our murder here.
All right. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Jinx.